Doesn't remember that I bought keys in his store when I was a little girl, but I'll talk to you about that later in the morning. Anyway, since sex is not a four-letter word, it's really something we shouldn't whisper about. Unfortunately, we often do. Well, we're going to meet sex therapist Dagmar O'Connor right after this. Look at the bestseller list these days. You have a pretty good idea on say it, Judy. What's on most people's mind these days? XEX, okay? Got me all flustered there. But are we just talking about it, or are we really doing anything about it? That's a good question. I'm glad I asked. Dr. Dagmar O'Connor is the director of the sex therapy program at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital. She was the first woman to be trained by the famed Masters and Johnson's team, and she's here to address that question and many others this morning. Welcome, Dagmar.
Thank you. We are certainly doing something about it ever since Masters and Johnson started their therapy, and a lot has happened since then. And many types of sex therapy has developed, and I think there's hardly any hospital, at least in this city, who does not have a sex therapy program.
Let me ask you this. Since Masters and Johnson, which certainly was the beginning of a lot of things, examination of our sexual problems, you're right, there seem to be sex clinics everywhere. Programs like this one discuss sex a lot because it's something that interests people. Do you think that there's been a marked improvement?
A little bit of a change in terms of seeking therapy, and there's some change in terms of young women having more premarital sex. And that is what the statistics show.
Is that a hopeful sign, more young women having premarital sex?
Who knows?
Who knows? It's just a statistic.
I don't know if it's hopeful.
We just thought we'd bring it up and tell you all about it this morning.
What most of your complaints, are they on one specific area? What's the largest number of complaints?
It's interesting how it's changed over the years.
Yeah.
We used to get the problems that were basically interfered with reproduction, like impotence, vaginismus, which is a tightening of the vaginal opening so no penetration can occur. These were really things that interfered. Pleasure problems like no female orgasm and premature ejaculation unless it was so severe that the male was to ejaculate before intercourse. They were later problems. In the beginning we got all those. Now we're getting pleasure problems. People are coming in and saying, I lost my interest.
It's kind of an evolution of rising expectations, if you will.
That's right.
I don't know.
And also the competition that has developed because of all the writing and all the publicity. It has a good side to it because it makes sex an open and acceptable subject and not as threatening. But it also means that people are starting to compare. I mean, it's one of the most competitive sports we have. And everybody lies about their results.
Maybe be in the Olympics someday. It's a lot more tickets. Anyway, when the people come in and say, I've lost my interest, are they saying, I've lost my interest in sex, or I've lost my interest in my partner?
Usually they've lost the interest in the partner, and then to close all of it off, they may have lost it all over, or they may never have had it. These are one of the questions I would ask. I would like to know when they lost interest. Was it the time of commitment, which is very common, like the engagement, or at marriage, a birth of a child? All these occasions cause sexual problems at times for some people.
Who do you treat more, men or women, or couples? I mean, who comes in for treatment most likely?
It is, I think, pretty equal. We are very famous for our women's program, and therefore we do get a lot of women, but we treat just as many men. And we treat couples, we treat men who cannot find women. And that is another problem. The men who feel that they cannot function will not even go out and try to get a date.
What do you mean they can't function? I mean, they just feel that they are total klutzes at it, or what?
Well, they have tried a couple of times and they found themselves impotent.
Do you use surrogates?
No.
You don't use surrogates?
We do not use surrogates.
Well, how does it actually work? Let's say Doug and I were a couple. We came in for counseling. Where would we begin? We came to your office, we say we're having a specific problem.
I would sit down like we're sitting down right now, and I would ask you each to tell me about the problem. And I would observe very carefully who started talking about the problem, how it was expressed on both sides. And it's usually expressed in a very serious manner. And of course it's troubling the couple for a long time, because if you go to a sex therapist, you're really desperate. And towards the end of the session, I would ask, where did fun go? Where did pleasure go? And they usually say, oh, because they spend the whole session talking about performance, angers, all of these things that get part of the marital problem is expressed right in the sexual problem.
Let me ask you this question. Now, there certainly are a lot of marriages that have gone on the rocks, and I think that the problems very often are that the lost interest in the partner, especially in males, because males can't fake it. Women can, but it's hard for men to do that. Is it been your observation that a lot of those marriages could have been saved if they had some briefing by you or some counseling with you? Or is this loss of interest indicative of other severe problems in the marriage?
With the success rate we have in treating the problems, I think these marriages could be saved. The couples who come in and seek help for therapy have amazingly good relationships. Most of them. It seems like all their problems are dumped in the sexual area. And of course, a couple therapy, like Masters and Johnson therapy, is a form of marriage counseling. This same couple may have gone to a marriage counselor, and because they solved that problem, their sex life may have gotten better as well. But if sex is a problem, it is very useful to use that as a tool to treat the whole marital issue. The way we express ourselves sexually is an expression of personality, and it's important to know the difference between men and women. Women expect men to be the way they are, and men expect women to be the way they are. And it's important to improve the language and the understanding of who they are and what they see each other as.
We've got to come back and take some calls at 955-9800 after a short break. But before we do that, I've got to ask you, what do you mean women, that's a fascinating thing. I've never heard that before. Women expect men to be more like they are and vice versa.
Let me give you a simple example. When we start a couple off by touching each other, the women complain that the men touch them too firmly and too hard. They like to be touched lighter. And most men like to be touched more firmly. But the women start out doing it the way they want to do it, and the man is saying it tickles because he's got too much hair. And he likes to be touched more firmly. And women like to be touched differently.
Okay, we're going to take that break right now. Call us again, 955-9800, and we'll be right back after this.
Here with Dr. Dagmar O'Connor, and we're talking about sex and sex therapy, and she just told us an astounding thing.
Would you share that with us?
There is a study that quotes that male sexuality, and I think it probably is true of female sexuality too, peaks at 80. Now, I think that might be
80 years of age?
Gives you something to look forward to.
Has anybody visited an old age home where somewhat of senility has set in, and what is the thing one remembers? Is sex.
And the nurses remembering sex isn't good enough. I mean, you've got to be able to apply those memories.
Oh, men get better with age. You didn't know that? They last longer.
That's been my experience.
And they enjoy. If you get over 65, 70, men usually who have worried about premature ejaculation usually last a lot longer. And it's just a physiological...
They slow down.
They slow down and have more fun, last longer. And there's a lot of couples who come in and see us
in some cases.
At the age of
when do women
65.
peak? When does their
Wait a minute. Couples come in at the age of 65?
And start dealing with their sexual problems and say, now we're retired. Now we really would like to enjoy our sex life.
Huh.
It hasn't
There's a lot
good.
of technical questions we could ask, I guess, but I don't know if they'd be appropriate at this moment.
Maybe for the Cable Health Network.
Cable.
I think we can.